Here is poetry for the soul and an oracle reading for the heart. Let it be, let it feel while we breathe. Sing under a tree, learn ease of the wild breeze. Listen to the rustling leaves, gather herbal tea, drink slowly. Refresh what we see, expand what we perceive. Conquer the demon through strengthening the haven. Healing is saving ourself from the disconnect in ourself. Dark shadow, open a window. The green of trees, leaves, and grass. Give heart and rise up. Hooray at last. Feng shui the mind, simplify. Let it be rise and fall of a tide. It is not necessary to lie. Turn deny into a practice of flying kites. May the view of new heights bring fun-loving play to the uptight. I am right, you are wrong. Oh, it's been long. Emotion numbing inside a bong. Just know, peace is unique. Union with antiques. They are not things, they are feelings, wanting change. Return to the wild, where Mother Earth is our vintage style. Our soul through the eyes knows experience of 1,000 lives, and knowledge to co-create, flying kites as the greatest delight. And for the oracle reading, I'm going to be using Crystal Oversoul Attunement. And let's see what our magical crystal is for the day. What we need to know most. Guidance that can uplift everyone who will watch this video. Uplift, 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 uplift. So I have 2 cards. I'm going to look at them and open my little book. So we have this dark blue energy. It's almost like the dark blue to a gas stove flame. So just feel the vibrations of the creation. This is a gentle, soothing blue. So we have this deep blue. We have this very calm, relaxing blue. So I'm going to read a little bit from the book. So we have the oneness. Papagoite encourages us to remember union. This beautiful crystal helps us relax and know that everything is in this moment is as it should be. We are encouraged to look at any feelings that are judged as unacceptable from a point of genuine oneness. This crystal reminds us of the power of the spoken word. We can use words to build and encourage or destroy. With this in mind, Papagonite encourages us to choose our expression with wisdom and understanding. Another aspect of this crystal is that it can aid in deep meditation. Papagoite balances both the left and right sides of the brain. Rather than these parts of the brain working apart, they emerge, expand, and unify. Beautiful message. I'm going to read for the second picture. As we enter a new stage of celestial and interdimensional contact, we will be challenged to maintain our own spiritual integrity within the cosmos. This crystal encourages us to stand in the light of our knowing, and to be able to discern what is right for us and what is not. This crystal has special connections to angelic forces. A subtle song inherent to its vibration can be heard when in its presence. This calls the angels and higher frequency beings to its side, who offer complete protection and balance. Celicite has a particular quality and resonance that can balance the throat chakra. It is this chakra which can need most healing, if there has been loss of faith or trust. So working with the throat chakra. So it's interesting, we have the oneness and we have the spiritual knowing. We have the emerge, expand, and unify of the brain. And then we have this healing of the throat chakra, particularly if we have lost faith or trust in the divine making. So with the oneness card, I'm feeling what is most important at this time is our expression. So we have two cards about expression. Maybe it's time for us to look at the way we are expressing ourselves. And when we express ourselves, does it bring understanding to ourselves and to the people around us? Or does it bring misunderstanding? Does it bring judgment? Okay. And we can listen to our expression through feeling into our heart. Sometimes when we are in life, we have these experiences, and sometimes these experiences create what is typical. It is typical to express one's emotion this way, based on our environment, based on the way we were raised, and these things. But sometimes in order for us to adventure beyond what we were told is how we should express ourselves, we have to, it's almost like going on a spiritual quest, like the spiritual journey card, or spiritual knowing. And in this spiritual knowing, we can connect with our own soul's compass, our own sense of integrity. And that integrity is wholeheartedly felt within the depth of our heart and the many chambers that makes up our heart. And when we connect with that spiritual knowing, there is this level of acceptance. It's a loving acceptance, because in that wholehearted presence with our deeper heart, with nature or with Mother Earth, we realize that there is a divine reason for the many things that are unfolding in our life. And that these many situations or circumstances are simply trying to help us to improve ourselves, refine ourselves, get into the resonance of faith rather than fear. And sometimes in order to get into the resonance of faith, we have to explore the fear and its many expressions, such as judgment, misunderstanding, anger, hate, etc. We have to explore that so we can have a physical sensation of it, because our body is our library. And when our body experiences things, it stores it. Okay? And it becomes knowledge, like a thesaurus. And we can file through this book when we need to gather an emotion or a feeling that maybe we've had in the past, the present, that maybe in the future, to help us to navigate this here and now moment so that we can move towards a resonance of love, courage, and faith, and to face the out of resonance within us that we have a lot, that leaves us with this feeling of being torn, of being disconnected, of being shallow and scared. So when we experience in our physical body, the judgment, either towards us or we judge another person, and we experience its many faces to it, okay? We can gather an understanding what that is like to be the receiver and to be the giver of that. And as we make the choice to unify with ourselves, like merge, expand, and unify. Those are three important words: emerge, expand, and unify. When we are ready, okay, in our own divine timing, when we're ready to emerge, expand, and unify with our essence, which is the same essence of the tree, the same essence of a deer, the same essence of a bee. There's this soul and there's this heart, and it is working as a rhythmic creation, an artistic, almost poetic, a painter's creation, one that brings people into their depth within their heart so that they too can have an experience of a divine making. And that divine making, when we travel into the depth of our heart, into the library of ourselves, there is wisdom and there is understanding. And that is the divine making. And everything is showing us how we can become wiser. So the experiences, I love the whole quote from Jim Carrey, are not happening to us, they're happening for us. Okay? It is helping us to grow closer to the divine making so that we can become even stronger at our ability to manifest with resonance rather than with fear. And that is the voyage and the journey of a lifetime, of lifetimes. So we have many, many lifetimes on planet Earth, thousands of lives, and those thousands of lives we learn on the physical body. Our physical body gets to gather circumstances and situations that we're presented with. It's almost like you're getting your PhD in math, and the professor gives you all kinds of math equations that are quite dynamic. But the more that you do it, that you are open to the professor's surprise tests or surprise quizzes or very far out there equations that you have to solve, the more open you are, the tend you be more relaxed and flexible, adaptable, changeable. You're thinking from a perspective of, I want to learn. Because when I learn or solve this, I have this feeling of victory. And not only victory, I also have this feeling of progress. And that's amazing for a person who's getting their PhD in math. Because when we have the progress, when we're faced with a math problem, and it's very dynamic, it's an equation that requires a lot of time, a lot of processing, a lot of internal reflection, a lot of study through other books and lectures of other professors. But through that commitment to it, we get to discover something within ourselves and within this problem. And if you notice, those who tend to really discover are the individuals that not only discover something new, but they discover something original within that. And that becomes a person who becomes a genius, who becomes innovative, who becomes a person who is using their wisdom and their understanding, that they are a student, that they're here to learn, that they're here to improve, that they want to progress, they want to solve that problem, and to go through the process that is that problem, and the setback, and I didn't get that wrong, right, I have to do it all over again. They want to go through that. They're open to that. Those tend to be the people that reach this level of genius, where all of a sudden it comes to them through their endless voyaging through this dynamics. They discover something, like within the fine print, you could say, or within the fine print of the problem, the math problem or the equation. They find something. And that becomes like a Nikola Tesla or a Da Vinci or let's say, an Albert Einstein. It's simply individuals who are open to learning, who are open to the process of what learning is. And that process has its many setbacks, it has its many downtimes, it has its many stumps, it has its many, I have to do it all over again, I have to go in a different direction. But their changeability of their mind is their greatest gift. So our spiritual knowing is our changeability, and our in our throat chakra, that expression, because we have both about oneness, which is an expression of love and coming into wisdom and understanding perspective, rather than these things are happening to me, because then it just becomes like the student who just is wanting to get their PhD in math but isn't really open to actually learning. They just want to get something. Okay, they just want to obtain something. Usually the people who want to obtain something are not the ones who thoroughly, like Albert Einstein, thoroughly introspect on the dynamics of a single problem. It's like a single problem to a PhD in math like Albert Einstein is this opportunity to have victory of a lifetime. And when our perspective becomes that, when we have a circumstance and overcoming that seeming simple circumstance, maybe to somebody else's vantage point or whatnot, seems simple, but when we overcome it, or we thoroughly resolve it, that becomes this great feeling. And the thing is, when we're not in that flow state, it just becomes, we just solve a problem, but then it just completely goes out of our mind because we didn't make it anything special to us. We didn't make it an opportunity to progress, to evolve. We made it as simply, I just solved a problem. So everything that you attach or you connect to what you're doing, it either has the opportunity to be something great, victorious, an opportunity to evolve and progress your very mind, your very courage, your very endurance, or it can just be, oh, I just solved a problem and that doesn't really matter. I'm going to keep just moving forward. But when we keep going and I'm just going to do this and then just move forward, then our whole life becomes this, I just do that and move forward, and therefore there is no depth. There is no genius behind it, because genius is introspection. Genius is the process, going through it step by step, not skipping it or just jumping things and doing things just to get it done. That becomes integrity when, like an Albert Einstein in college or whatnot, is wanting to go through every little step by step to not only master the problem or to solve the problem, but also to understand the very elements that make the problem a problem. So that's how we can become a student becomes a professor. A professor is somebody that knows the many mechanics to the problem and can look at it in its little pieces and can understand each the piece and what it means, and not only what it means when they emerge, expand, and unify into together as like an equation or a formula or whatnot. So that level of endurance, that level of commitment and devotion to the simplest thing, it turns the simplest thing into an opportunity to discover something that has a chance to be even genius thought. It's all because we decide this right here in front of me, this circumstance, this situation is here to improve me. It's quite simple, okay? But a lot of times when we're in this almost separation consciousness where we feel everything is happening to us, not necessarily for our benefit, because we're looking all the time through the perspective of other people, we compare, we contrast, we compete, and in that everything becomes externalized, meaning we are this external being that just gets these things. But the thing is, the genius in us, it's in all of us. The genius in us is not so much an externalized, I get these things. It's an internalized, I know these things. Not I get these things, I know these things. And there's this level of like a composer. I know this cello because I have thoroughly listened and studied the player of the cello and the many movements the celloist creates with the cello. And I've learned the violin and the trombone and the clarinet and the flute and all these things, as the composer would say. And that's what makes a composer, because there is this deep understanding and wisdom for what must happen for all of these instruments to create a symphony or an orchestra. And all what has to take place is this level of emerge, expand, and unify. And that's what happens, like your brain. Your brain is like a symphony. And I always refer to this because I love music. But your brain has this, the cello, has the violin, has the clarinet, the trombone, the drums, and such things. All it is a matter of fact of you are the composer of it. You just simply need to allow the composer to be with the instruments, to study the instruments, to go through the process, the step-by-step process of what it takes to become a composer. But all of us, we want it overnight, don't we? But even Albert Einstein, not overnight. Even Nikola Tesla, not overnight. If you research these stories, you find that they have went through step-by-step the processes of the setback, and then having to do it all over again, and then having to go in another direction, and having to do it all over again. But the thing is, these people, they have a smile because they know in everything there's a victory. Even if you're wrong, there's a victory because now you know that's not the right direction, and I'm okay with that because now I know that's not the right direction. So I have this now, what not to do. But we have a lot of this judgment. It's religious judgment, this prosecution that we're always prosecuting ourselves, for everything that we do, everything. And we're always prosecuting other people for everything they're doing. But the thing is, when we rise above the prosecution, where we're always prosecuting ourselves and other people, and we rise into this wisdom and understanding, then we have a flexible, adaptable mind that is flexible and adaptable enough to be able to improve and to progress, rather than just stay in this I'm right or I'm wrong, but to move beyond that and move into a victory that is beyond this right and wrong. It's like a professor giving a math problem and getting your PhD in math. And the problem itself, maybe there are negative and positive energies to it. If you maybe are a chemist, there's negative and positive charges that come together. And it's not so much as these are negative and positive things, it's more so they're working together. It's like negative and positive ions that are working together. You could say in the great scheme of the whole creation and life itself. So when we see it as these things are working together to improve us, to refine us, to help us to be better creators, just like, the negative and the positive charges, the kind of working for creation itself, then we can get into this deeper understanding for why we have duality, for why we have separation. And that understanding comes from a heart that wants to study and wants to be with it. That's the thing. If you want to learn anything, be with it. That's the greatest thing you could do. If you want to learn, just be with it. And when you're being with it, you can really, when you're in your body, feel connected. You can understand, like, is this for me or is this not for me? And that's when we get into our spiritual knowing. And it seems our spiritual knowing is our spiritual practice. And that spiritual practice is faith. Okay? It's like that's the spiritual practice, faith. Faith in the divine making, faith in what you would like to create, because without faith, there's no Albert Einstein, there's no Nikola Tesla, there's no Da Vinci going on. Because if they had no faith in themselves, they would experience the first setback and they would just give up and crawl into a cave. The very fact that they have victory in everything, even the simplest day, the simplest circumstances of, I got my coffee today, or I got my tea, my herbal tea, that becoming a victory, it brings life to what we are. And we don't have a lot of life, do we? Because we are just simply trying to obtain the get. I get. And not trying to obtain the I know. Like, I know that I can change. I know that I can go in a different direction. I know that I can experience something new. I know that I can discover something. I know that I can get what I want creatively. That is this feeling of nirvana that these Albert Einstein and Da Vinci's and whatnot have experienced. It's this deep understanding of what we're doing here on Earth. And it's not an intellectual debate, as a religious perspective would say. It's not an intellectual debate. It is simply a feeling inside of your heart that is unique to you and your soul and your heart. It's unique to you, what we're here to do, and what we're gathering in our body of knowledge. So when we get in, it's almost like I like to say, divine healing. When we're in that flow state of divine healing through our practice of faith, and it could be meditation, it could be Kundalini yoga, anything that gives you that presence of endured faith, then you become a divine healing. And you're not just a collection of miscellaneous seeming knowledge inside of your body that maybe come from traumas, blocks, childhood, circumstances in childhood, discouragement from caretakers, negativity, just imbalances that maybe you've absorbed in your physical body from just life. And it's quite imbalanced right now, as we know. It's quite imbalanced. But when you feel into that like ache or that tornness or that brokenness in your body that many people have, they're very much broken and very much disjointed and kind of off in their body. When you feel that through a divine healing, there's this restorative energy that can change you, but you have to allow it. That's the thing. You have to be open to it. If your mind is not open to it, you are not going to discover anything new within it, within yourself, within the trauma, or with the block, because you have to allow the emotions. You have to allow the process. And that's the thing. We don't understand the process, but it's there. And when we really become aware of ourselves, we can get into a nice groove, like a moon cycle. If you're a woman, we each have a moon cycle, and we go through almost like in a month the seasons, the 4 seasons, like the spring and the summer and then the fall and the winter. Winter representing the period, the menstrual blood itself. Okay, hibernation, time for introspection, death, the rebirth, and spring representing the end of the cycle and the new cycle starting, and then the summer where we have so much energy, and then the fall, it's just kind of relaxing, being, and then the winter, deep death and rebirth. When we can kind of get into an awareness of our flow, like what is our emotional process? Because it'll be different for you. When you really sit with yourself and you want to learn, you want to study thoroughly, go through the process like you are getting your PhD in math and you want to learn the many facets that make up the total equation. When you have that perspective, then you can understand that we are rhythmic, we are cyclical beings. And what that means is you can alchemize that. So instead of being whiplash or exhausted by the process, you can be like, I understand. I'm in this phase of my moon cycle or this phase of my life. And you can even have yearly cycles or month cycles, like with the April, the May, June. It could all be different months for you. When you get into that understand, then there's this level of oneness with yourself and therefore with others. So when you get upset or when you get angry or when you get depressed or when you get judgmental of self, it doesn't become of you're prosecuting yourself for something. You are more so, this is just a part of my process. But this is going to fade because as all cycles, there are seasons and seasons always change. Every day it is a different day with the nature and seasons. Every day is a different day. So when you're really in that flow state, every day becomes like a victory. It becomes eye-opening. It becomes discovery. And not only is that a discovery for yourself, you become this presence like a tree that contributes to the health and the discovery of all living things. Like the trees and the connectivity of the trees, they're always in support of other trees reaching their discovery. So if a tree somewhere is diseased or off balance or in need of something, the sophistication of the tree itself, maybe a neighboring tree, it is in such a flow state, a presence, that presence becomes the self-discovery or the discovery that helps aid that tree who maybe needs some sort of guidance because maybe they are going through an unexpected circumstance they don't necessarily know how to navigate through. Maybe it's new. Maybe they've never, in all of their thousands of years of being a tree, they've never came across this circumstance before, so they need aid. And your presence as like a neighboring tree becomes that aid because maybe you have gone through that in some other point in your history as a tree. Maybe you're older than that tree, and therefore you went through that, and you know how you got through it. Because you went through the process step by step. Whenever somebody goes through the process step by step, they tend to be more knowledgeable about how they got where they got. But those who are just a get to obtain, they don't really have anything to give guidance wise because they were totally oblivious or totally just checked out while they were going through the process of getting what they got. So therefore they don't know how to give aid to those individuals who maybe are needing support or some sort of discovery in a similar area that they've mastered. So we want to be masterful, and to be masterful is to be aware, because when we become masterful, we know how to serve others. When we just get to obtain, we're not very masterful and we don't know how to help other people. We're just keeping our status quo, but there is no genius behind it because we didn't really have victory over it. We just got it. You can get anything. You can capture anything if you want to. But why are you capturing is a great question. Why do you want to capture a bird? Why do you want to capture a fish? What is the deeper reason behind it? Because when you have a deeper reason behind it, you tend to have a process with it. And then that process, there becomes an understanding, a wisdom behind why do we capture fish as fishermen? Okay, or why do we capture birds or butterflies? What is the wisdom or understanding? And if there is no wisdom or understanding, it just becomes almost like an act that we do that doesn't really bring us any victory. It just becomes a kind of just a going through the motions of life, but not really participating in it, not really finding joy in it, because we are feeling like it's not really relevant. But every student in the PhD of math knows everything is relevant. Every little nuance is relevant. Okay, so this is very much the guidance for today on how we can better come into our oneness with ourselves and better come into our spiritual knowing. So faith, not fear, because that's the throat chakra. When you are expressing yourselves authentically or creatively, you have to ask yourself, do you have faith behind that? Meaning, do you believe like this could actually become something, even become profitable for you? Because that's in the sense of mastery, taking it into something, making it into something profitable for yourself, something that gives to you life, gives to you energy, gives you an exchange of energy. That's the mastery we're wanting to get into. And you have to ask yourself, is there faith or is there not? Are you distrusting the divine and therefore closed, or you're not open to the dynamic the divine gives you, or the math professor gives the math student, here you go? And are you saying, whoa, no, I don't want to do that. That's not what we've done before, and I don't know what this is. It's really advanced or it's really foreign to me. Or are you open? Yes, thank you. I will do my best and I will go through the process in sweat and tears if I have to. But I will keep my eye on the victory that I will have, even if I do months of this single problem. And that is the attitude that is literally the cosmos opening up for you. And that when the cosmos opens up for you, then we become a genius consciousness. Then we become a genius consciousness. So I'm going to leave you all with that, and thank you for watching, and Sat Nam.